Hey y'all, welcome to another What's for Dinner. First up, I made a balsamic glaze pork tenderloin in my Instant Pot. It feels like it's been a while since I've used my Instant Pot, so I was excited to give this one a try. So I just pulled that pork tenderloin from my freezer and thawed it out. I've drizzled it with some olive oil and seasoned it with salt, pepper, and Italian seasoning. And as you can see, I'm just massaging that into both sides really well. I'm going to turn the saute function on the Instant Pot, and once it was hot, I added some nonstick cooking spray, and then I'm going to throw in some minced garlic. After about a minute, I added in that pork, and I'm just looking to sear that for a few minutes on each side. The garlic did start to burn really fast, so I didn't get to sear it for as long as I wanted to. So next time, I would skip adding the garlic in so early, and I would just throw it in with the sauce that we'll make here in a little bit. So as you see, I did remove that pork to a separate plate. I've turned my pot off, and I'm adding in 1 cup of water to deglaze the bottom. And I'm just going to pull out my little wooden spatula and scrape up off all of those little flavorful bits from the bottom. Then I'm going to add in a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar, followed by a 1/2 cup of brown sugar, and then 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. So the original recipe called for 2 of the pork tenderloins. Normally when you buy like pork tenderloin in a pack, it always comes in a pack of 2. But I didn't have that. I just, like I said, I froze the one. But I did keep the sauce the same. But next time I would definitely use both pork tenderloins because it was barely enough, because it is a lot smaller than what it looks like on camera. But anyways, I just added my meat back in, popped my lid on, and I made sure the valve was set to sealing. And I'm going to set the time for 10 minutes after hitting that manual button. And then I am going to let it natural release for an additional 10 minutes. And at this point, I will release the pressure. And there was barely any since it has such a long natural release time. So once that pin dropped, I am going to remove that meat from the liquid. And I'm going to set it on that cutting board to the side to rest for about 5 minutes. So now I am going to turn my pot back onto saute to get that sauce up to a boil. And then I'm going to get started on a little cornstarch slurry to thicken up the sauce. So I added in 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to about a 1/4 cup of water. And I'm just stirring that until it is a smooth liquid. And then I'm just going to pour that on into the sauce. And I'm going to let that cook for about 1 to 2 minutes. And you will know when it's ready when it can coat the back of a spoon. This pork cooked perfectly, and that glaze on it is what made it so incredible. I would definitely make it again, and I just served it with some homemade mashed potatoes. I poured some more of that sauce over the top, and then I also did a side of green bean casserole. I also think this would be really good with rice or even egg noodles in place of the mashed potatoes. I think that sauce would pair perfectly with any of those. Up next, I was really craving like a summertime meal, so to me, cheeseburgers scream summer. So I have some 85/15 ground chuck. I have close to 2 pounds, and I'm just going to transfer that to a small mixing bowl. I did decide to make these like ranch style, so I am adding in some of that Hidden Valley ranch seasoning mix, and I'm just measuring that with my heart. And then next, I'm just going to throw in a few dashes of Worcestershire sauce. That is a must in our cheeseburgers at home. And then I'm going to remove my ring and get in there with my hands and just make sure that that is thoroughly combined to make sure that every little piece is seasoned well. And you definitely don't want to do this for too long or they'll have a weird texture. But now I'm just going to portion those out and get those shaped. I'm going to cook that in my cast iron skillet. I love cooking burgers on a cast iron because it really helps give it that nice crust that I'm looking for in a burger. And I did have to do this in 2 batches. And then I, of course, served it on a hamburger bun, and I topped it with some mayo, mustard, pickles, and lettuce. And that ranch seasoning really came through and made these the bomb. And I just served it with a side of baked beans that I cooked in the crock pot all day. And then I just did one of these like cheapy boxed pasta salads. And it has been so long since I have bought this particular one. And dang, I forgot how good they were. I'm totally going to stock up. No shame in my boxed game. I loved it. And this totally satisfied my summertime dinner craving. And then one night of the week, we treated ourselves to some Logan's Roadhouse. That used to be my favorite restaurant, but honestly, the one where we live has kind of went downhill lately, so it's really rare that we go. But we started off with some side salads, and we got the spinach and artichoke dip as an appetizer, which is one of my all-time favorite things on this earth. And the kids were going to town on the rolls and butter. I got a loaded baked potato and a steak, and yes, I drenched everything in A1 sauce. But yeah, it was just nice to get out of the house and have a little break from cooking. Up next is a tried and true chicken recipe. So I have 2 boneless, skinless chicken breasts that I have sliced in half to make 4 thinner pieces. And I'm just seasoning those with some Lawry's seasoned salt and some pepper. Now I'm going to take some mayo and add that onto each piece. Now I know that if you haven't tried something like this before, you probably think that this is extremely strange, but I promise it works so well on chicken. At least give it a try one time to see what you think. Now I'm going to take some shredded Parmesan cheese and sprinkle that on over each piece. Even like the shaky stuff that comes in the green bottle would probably work just as well. And then lastly, I'm just going to take some of these Italian seasoned breadcrumbs and evenly sprinkle that over the top. Gotta love recipes that call for very few ingredients, and I feel like these are staples in most people's kitchen. I just baked this at 400 degrees for 25 minutes. Of course, that could vary depending on your oven and your size of chicken, but this worked for us. I just flipped my broiler on for a couple of minutes to get that nice crispy topping. The chicken always comes out incredibly juicy, and we love the flavor. I just served it with a side of homemade mac and cheese that I did in the crock pot. And then my dad actually made these collard greens and sent them home with me, and they were the best that I have ever had. So I want to attempt to make them myself really soon. Up last, but definitely not least, is one of our favorites that I've shared a couple times on here, and it is this ham and hash brown casserole. I do cut this recipe in half, so I only use a half a bag of those frozen shredded hash browns. I'll do 1 ham steak that's 8 ounces, a half a cup of sour cream, some sharp cheddar cheese, a can of cream of chicken, 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter, and some pepper, and I love the Steak and Shake seasoning in place of salt. I bake this at 350 degrees, anywhere from 45 minutes to 50 minutes. And then I like to flip the broiler on and let that go for a couple of minutes to get the top brown and just wait for this. How incredible does that look? This is just such a winner in our book. I hope that you give it a try if you are a cheese lover like us. I like to top mine with some pepper and parsley. I served it with a side of corn. Originally, I had planned on broccoli because this is so much yellow on a plate, but corn just sounded better at the moment, and it's one of Boston's favorite things. And then I also just did some sweet potato casserole on the side. If we have any leftovers of this, we like to serve it with breakfast the next morning as a side, and it's just a great start to the day. But that does wrap up this video. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.